Hello. Welcome to Discover a New Future, a show geared at empowering individuals to be the best versions of themselves. I'm your host, Faith Saunders. Did you know that around the world, 1 in 3 women have been beaten, coerced into having sex, or at least be abused during their lifetime? And this is often occurring with family members. Also, right here in the United States, home violence is the leading cause of injury to women. And studies show that up to 10 million, I'm going to repeat that, up to 10 million children witness some form of home violence each year. These are very staggering statistics. And today we're going to be talking about the impact home violence has on individuals and the things that we as citizens of this country can actually do to erase home violence. My guest today is Sabrina Osso. And did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
I always ask that because
Yes.
I'm not really good at pronouncing names. But thank you so much, Sabrina, for being here. And Sabrina is going to share with us, she's so passionate. When I spoke with Sabrina prior to the show, she has been so passionate about the work that she does around this. And we're going to talk, and I'd like to start off by asking you, Sabrina, why are you so passionate? Why are you so passionate about this particular issue?
Well, I feel it's a very important issue. As I tell people, I have personal and professional experience with home violence. I lived it.
Mm-hmm.
I know what it's like to live with chaos, with violence right in your own home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like living with a terrorist,
Mm-hmm.
with you're at war,
Mm-hmm.
really, and your life is like stolen
Mm-hmm.
every single day living in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
So as I grew up and as I started to heal,
Mm-hmm.
I said to myself, I need to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a performer, and I wanted to bridge performing because I feel that it makes it easier to digest. When you're saying all those statistics, it's very morbid, it's very heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that it affects so many people, so many lives, so
Mm-hmm.
many victims, male and female, but let's face it, most of the victims are female.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to make a difference. I want to make a huge difference in victims' lives. So that's why.
What I found interesting when I spoke with you, instead you spoke about home violence. Tell us why you choose the word home violence instead of domestic violence.
Sure. Domestic violence has this connotation that it's a woman's problem, you
Mm-hmm.
know. For a long time, you say domestic violence and already there's a stigma there
Mm-hmm.
with, oh, it's a woman's problem. And clearly it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to change it and say home violence because home violence is more inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
In the home is a husband and a wife, a boyfriend and a girlfriend, kids, the pet,
Mm-hmm.
or pets. Everyone is affected in the home. It's more inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's like an oxymoron, home violence. Like
Mhm.
it almost makes people think like, wait a minute, if it's a true home,
Mm-hmm.
there shouldn't be violence in it.
Mhm.
Exactly. That's
Exactly.
what I'm trying to say, to kind of like get people to wake up to, yes, that is correct. Your home should be your sanctuary, not a war zone.
I love that. I love that because you're right. So often, when you say home violence and when you explain why you chose that term to describe it, it really personalizes it to say it's not just something happening to somebody else. It's a home is your sanctuary, as you just mentioned, and it should be a safe place, a happy place. And
Right.
so many women and families in general, children, are impacted by this, as we mentioned earlier in terms of the statistics.
Right.
So, can you give us some additional information about home violence in terms of statistics, especially here in the United States? Because I think statistics say volumes, to really the impact this is having on individuals.
Right, right. As you mentioned, 1 out of 3 women will be beaten or raped in her lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
1 out of 5 adolescent girls is abused by her boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of today, 4 women will be killed by their abusive partners, and most of them will be killed after they have left their abusers. So them leaving is not the answer.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when a woman decides to leave, she is 75% more likely to be killed.
Mm-hmm.
And on any given day, as many as 20,000 people are seeking refuge at an emergency shelter in the United States.
Wow.
1 out of 14 men is abused. 80% of all runaways come from violent homes. I could go on and on and on.
Wow. So these are just really staggering. But one of the things you mentioned is that when a woman chooses to leave, what was the statistic around that being?
75%. She's 75% more likely to be killed.
Exactly. And why is that?
The abuser is set out, that is the ultimate power and control, is to, you don't listen to what I say, the beatings don't work, the threats don't work, the stalking doesn't work, I'm a man. And like I said, it could be male or female, but the focus of this interview is female victims. I'm a man, in order for me to be a man, I need to dominate you. It's the ultimate power control, is to kill you.
Wow.
Kill the victim.
Wow.
And I would say that he'll stop at nothing.
Wow.
And that is the ultimate control. Like I said, you know, as ugly as that sounds, but from what I gather in my research and just experience and people's stories to me, that's what it boils down to.
Right. It's all about control. That's really what it's control. Exactly.
You know, and unhealthy power and control. You know.
So what would you? So leaving. How? Any suggestions in terms of women who are in this situation? What's the best way to deal with such a situation?
Well, I would say there are the phone numbers, the 800 numbers, obviously. There's the New Jersey Coalition for Battered Women, and also the Domestic Violence Hotline, which I believe is 1-800-572-SAFE. And you call those numbers and they direct you. First of all, they'll ask you what county do you live in, and then they will direct you to the nearest shelter, the nearest counseling facility. I say to people, start documenting your abuse immediately. I have something called my Chaos Diary. It's a diary that I created to help anyone that's abused to document the abuse on a daily basis. I use it in my seminars and my workshops, and I just give them out at presentations. That's an important action that you can take, because in a way you are empowering yourself, and and even if it's just on a piece of paper or in your phone, password protected, that works as well. And in a way you're breaking your own silence by doing that. You know, you're not waiting for someone else to do it for you, you are documenting it. I feel that the responsibility needs to come from the institutions of society, not the victims. You take a woman who is beat up, she's bruised, she has a black eye, she has broken ribs, she's shot, she's stabbed. Then we expect her to leave with kids. It's mind-boggling to me. It's the institutions of society that need to step in, which is what I'm trying to do with my company, to really, truly make a difference in these victims' lives and erase home violence once and for all.
Wow, that's so powerful. You spoke about, I found that so intriguing what you just said about the diary where women could actually document what's happening. And I keep on saying that most of the time we say home violence and we think domestic violence and we think a black eye, but it's not necessarily a punch. What are other ways? Because I think we really need to educate women in terms of what is abuse. It's not necessarily someone punching you. There's so many different levels.
Right. It could be stalking, threatening, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to take away the kids. Taking taking away bank accounts is a big way to be violent without punching, without the physical aspect. And violence consists of, like domestic violence, home violence consists of it's physical, emotional, sexual, and verbal. So threatening is a big one. You could throw something at someone even though it didn't attack you, but just that action, that gesture is violent. Stalking is a big, even text messaging, you know, taking things away from your spouse, from your former spouse, your present girlfriend, boyfriend. That is another way. It's important that the victim knows that it's not their fault.
Right.
Very, very important that it's not their fault. You cannot control someone that is abusing you.
Right.
It's impossible. So all of these aspects are actually abuse, really.
I totally agree, and thank you so much for clarifying that, because again, so often we just think about the physical, we don't think about that emotional and sexual, all these other areas, financial, as you just mentioned. So it's very important for us to be very clear. And I'm intrigued by that book, that journal. I'd love to see that.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you have a picture of anything of it or anything that maybe?
I actually have it with me.
Oh, okay.
I do have it with me.
Okay, I'd love to. I'll maybe take a picture of it and actually put it with the show.
Sure.
We talked about some of the resources that are available to women, and you also spoke about, in terms of erasing home violence, we all have a role to play. So let's start by talking about as family members. I am a family member of someone who I suspect is in an abusive relationship, although, as in most cases, most of these women do not say or share with anyone. They keep this to themselves.
Right.
What do you think should I do? I'm suspecting this. What are some suggestions for me?
Right. I like to, again, back to the chaos diary, it's a good icebreaker when you don't know how to approach someone, family member or non-family member. It's a good way to kind of just open a window and say, look, I suspect something is going on. Take this, read it, because in the beginning I have encouraging words, just like empowering, and also defining what home violence is. So it's just kind of like an eye-opener for the person who has it and the person who's giving it to the other person. The 800 numbers that I provided, I would say it's very hard, I know, to intervene, and I know that, I am aware of that, to keep telling them it's not your fault, you're not alone, and that things will get better. The way I approach my business, and this is what I encourage people, we have to get into that person's workplace, that victim's workplace, where I hold a seminar directed to employees, upper management, and supervisors. So if this family member can ask, or would probably know where the workplace is of the victim, to get me into that workplace. I hate to sound like that, but when you educate openly and honestly the employees, upper management, and supervisors, and a lot of victims are in the workforce, you set up a policy. There is zero tolerance for home violence, because home violence definitely seeps into the workplace. That way it's out in the open. The company is involved, and it makes everyone accountable and responsible. I don't advise to tell the person to leave, because
Please
like
talk
I said,
about that.
because once you, first of all, you're re-victimizing the person. That is it's kind of like counterproductive. You have a person, like as I mentioned, who's all beat up, who's threatened, constantly being put down. You're nothing without me. You're not going to make it out there without me. I'm going to take the kids. You listen to this every single day, you begin to believe it. So you cannot, how can we expect for that person to leave? It is, like I said, counterproductive, and then we need to expect for the abuser to leave. That's what I want to see.
Okay.
Whoever that is, male or female, the abuser is the one who needs to vacate the residence. So, and there's many reasons why women don't leave. Money is a big one, financially.
Big.
She is financially dependent on the abuser, and if she leaves, that's gone. Children are a big factor in why she stays. Fear, utter terror of constant threats, and it makes you very, very scared. Law enforcement blame her, her religion blames her, family blame her, she blames herself.
And the whole community blames her.
Yes. Yeah, why did you marry him? Why did you marry her? So, and then when you bring up that statistic of 75% more likely to be killed, if the odds are stacked so highly against you, would you leave?
No.
So, expecting her to leave is the wrong approach. The abuser's the one who needs to go.
I totally agree with you.
He needs to go.
And you spoke about children and the impact. I don't know if you feel comfortable talking about the impact this has on children.
Oh yes, I'm comfortable.
Oh, okay.
I'm very comfortable. Yes, it's. I know growing up in that environment, like I said, you live in a constant state of alarm.
Wow.
Which is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it affects your brain.
Mm-hmm.
There is research and data that states as a fact, kids that live in that environment are being brain damaged.
Wow.
There are neurons and because the stress hormone is constantly released. And even if the husband, the abuser, does not touch the children and only abuses the wife or the spouse, whoever that is, those kids are horribly affected. Horribly affected. A lot of these courts, they say best interest of the child, and I have to say from experience and from on a personal and professional level, they do not have the best interests of the child. That's why domestic violence, home violence is so prevalent. I can say that hands down because they may say best interests of the child, but what transpires as far as the ruling, it's not.
Right.
Like joint custody, I find that when you have an abuser, one of the parents is abusive, they should do away with joint custody.
Right.
You are putting that child in harm's way. And then that child is going to turn into your future abuser or your future victim. And why?
Exactly.
For what? And that child, there's a study that if you take two children, one that's very sharp and one that isn't so sharp in a classroom, and the teacher's giving the same amount of information, but you take that child that's sharp and he or she is in a violent atmosphere, and then the child, who is not so sharp or you know, just average, you know, and gets the same amount of information, the child who is sharp but living in that environment will absorb less information.
Of course.
Than the child who is not so sharp, you know, but they live in a good environment, a healthy environment.
Supportive.
And it doesn't even have to mean that mom and dad both get along, but they are with a good parent. That child will go further ahead.
Wow.
And that's a fact.
Yeah.
There's research providing that. So kids suffer tremendously.
Wow.
Tremendously. And like I said, your life is stolen. Because when you live in that environment, you cannot know what it is that you want to do in your life because you are constantly trying to survive.
Exactly.
You're on the run. Even though you go home, but home is not safe.
Right.
Home is hell.
You're wondering when the next shoe is going to drop. Well, you know, if it's your mom who's being abused, if she's going to be hurt or even die. I mean, even as children, I think sometimes we think children are not in tune in terms of what's happening. Kids are very intelligent and they know exactly what's happening if nothing even is being said about it.
Absolutely, 100%. They are totally, completely affected. Completely. They're scared. They're. It's like living with the terrorist.
Wow, you said that, and I can't. It just really brings it home when you say it that way.
It's home terrorism.
Wow.
Really. Yes.
Wow.
And you know, you could run away from Osama bin Laden. You could run away from Saddam Hussein. But when he or she is in your home, where are you going to run?
Exactly.
Where?
You have nowhere else to go.
Where? Exactly.
Wow. That's
exactly.
powerful. You talked about your. You know, this weekend there was the NASCAR competition, and Busch was not allowed to participate because of allegations that of abuse to his girlfriend, I think it is, or is his a friend, ex-girlfriend now. What's your thought about that? This is an opinion.
Yes. I'm glad you asked, and. I read most of the information, you know, or at least some of it, and I feel like them suspending him is a step in the right direction, but it's a small step. They did not bring, or no one has brought criminal charges against him, and I don't know why. And there should be, because it was a bona fide assault. And from what I read, his attorney is saying they want to shed light on Miss Patricia Driscoll's motivations, her her true character and her history.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I propose that we shed light on his true character, his motivations, and his history. And they were saying that the family court commissioner, I believe his name is David Jones, they did not require, again, family court, once again, failing. They did not order him into a Batterers Program, from what I understand. Now, I don't know what transpired from what I read in the articles
until now.
But why do at least that? Require him to go to a Batterers Program. And his reasoning was that he did not fit the profile of a batterer.
Wow.
Well, he had his left hand on her neck, his right hand on her chin and face, and smashed her head against the wall of his motorhome. If that doesn't constitute a batterer behavior, I don't know what does. I honestly don't know what does.
Yeah.
So, I know there was a restraining order placed.
Wow.
More needs to be done.
Batterers programs, do you think that they work?
And this is an educated guess. I would say maybe for first offense. Beyond that, I don't think so. I don't think so. But I need to inform myself, just to be fair. I need to inform myself more on Batterers programs. But I feel like when you have a pattern of violent behavior, you beat, you threaten, you stalk, you stab, you shoot. I don't think a Batterers Program will help you.
Yeah,
I really
too
don't.
far gone.
Would it help a terrorist? No. So would it help a home terrorist? I don't think so. But like I said, I need to inform myself more, and in a way, to put faith in that is kind of scary for the victim.
Right, that's true.
You're putting her in danger. The victim, whoever that is, male or female, you're putting that person in danger to give them false hope into thinking.
Right,
They'll get fixed.
Exactly.
You can fix this.
Right.
Really? We're talking about very scary physical harm, sexual harm, verbal harm, constant threats. It's serious.
Serious. It's
Very
deadly.
Serious. You know?
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Could you tell us a little bit about your company? What's the name of your company and what do you do?
The name of my company is Florit.
And why did you choose Florit?
Yes. As I pitch myself to people, it is putting pedal to the metal on erasing the chaos of home violence on a mainstream level. And it's funny, I find it fitting that you brought up the NASCAR story, and it's kind of fitting with my company. I wanted a name that was empowering, that said speed, urgency. We need to fix this now because it's already way overdue. I wanted an empowering name because when Florit is an expression in the race car industry, in the race car sports industry, putting pedal to the metal. So, and you think race car, you think empowerment, victory, justice, freedom. So domestic violence, home violence has such a reputation of you don't want to talk about it, it's morbid, it's heavy. So I wanted to kind of give it a different, give it a facelift, if you will, kind of like where people will want to talk about it, where people will want to break the silence, break the taboo. So, and I want to get victims out of victim mode and into empower mode, where they're non-victims. So I feel like the name Florit encompasses all of that. The speed, the urgency, the empowerment, the justice, the victory, the all of that all together, and enough with the slowness. Oh, you got raped, you got abused, here, take a brochure.
Yeah, call that number.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right, call that number. It's like a division of motor vehicle pace, very slow. No, we need to step on it.
Right.
We need to floor it. We need to get with it.
That's awesome.
You know?
And what do you do within your company?
Yes, there's several components to my company. And some of it is I am an education consultant for schools and corporations on erasing home violence through my seminars and workshops called Home Sweet Home.
Mm-hmm.
And I go into corporations and first of all, it's the human resource department
Mm-hmm.
that would get me in,
Mm-hmm.
to educate the employees, upper management, and supervisors.
Mm-hmm.
And first, I would educate the supervisors and upper management. And it's several steps that I do where I establish a corporate policy.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, there will be no domestic violence, no home violence in this corporate atmosphere, because you have to think, once you step into corporate land, so to speak, you are your corporation's responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's any stalking, any threats on company ground,
Mm-hmm.
it affects the company's bottom line.
Exactly.
So, and these employees are affected. It could be why they come in late to work, why they do poor work, or why they don't show up at all.
Exactly.
So it affects the company's bottom line. So, and I build awareness. I educate first, like I said, the supervisors and upper management. Once the policy is in place, and I work with the legal department and the security department, and if those departments are non-existent, that's fine. And then I move the policy to the employees, where the employees are educated. And I don't approach this as, who here is in a domestic violent relationship? No one would raise their hand. So it's kind of like laying out the policy, so that way they know they won't be penalized, they will not lose their job. It's non-discriminatory, non-retaliation, and they could say to their supervisor, yes, I am in a violent relationship. What is the right protocol? How do you handle that? What is a good response mechanism? And I build awareness with the company. I also train the upper management and supervisors how to handle these situations. So that's on the corporate side,
Right.
what I do on the corporate side. And like I said, corporations need to step in to address home violence because they're already involved.
Exactly.
I consult with a domestic violence cost calculator. A company of, no matter how small or big the company, it is affected. Because in that company, I can assure you there's a victim in there, or there's an abuser, or both. A company of, for example, just off the top of my head, of 150 employees is losing $30,000 per year due to domestic violence. And this calculator factors in tardiness, absenteeism, healthcare costs, productivity, all of it. So it affects. It's in their best interest to address
Impacts
this.
their bottom line.
Absolutely.
Big time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On the school side, I educate students on erasing home violence. I do group reenactments. I educate them what is domestic violence, because for a long time, even myself growing up in that atmosphere, I didn't even realize that, because when you live in that atmosphere,
It's normalized.
You think, right, it's normal, this is how everyone lives. And it's so to educate, students on that. What are the warning signs, especially older students, like middle school, like if you're in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. So those components are core with my company.
Wow. At the end of the show, we're going to be putting your information in where people could actually reach you.
Great.
I keep on saying time goes fast when you're having fun. Well, when you're getting a lot of information, and this has been so helpful and eye-opening speaking with you today.
Thank you, Faith. Thank you.
I would like for you, do you have any any closing words for our audience?
Yes, I am hoping that this interview will open doors for me and my company where I can really make a difference with victims to turn them into non-victims. My vision is to see every single residence, whether it be rented or owned, free of violence, free of chaos. And because that is our basic right, our basic fundamental right is to live in our homes free of violence, free of chaos, whether it be physical, emotional, verbal, or sexual. We have running water in our homes, we have gas, we have electric. We should be living free of chaos.
That's so true.
And I feel that it is very important. So I want to basically floor it with Floor It.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sabrina. This has been such an eye-opening interview, and I hope anyone who's watching this can, if you're a victim or not, that this has been impactful in terms of educating you. So until next time, I just want to thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.
Thank you.